Welcome to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse. Innovative Strategy is a show designed to help people with their business and personal financial literacy, but not in the way that you have known. This is not your grandpa's financial literacy, as Bill uses his 30-plus years in the financial industry to stretch your financial box from, let's say about a 30,000-foot view of things. Bill and his guests have helped hundreds of clients achieve and surpass their financial goals. If you have any questions, please email Bill at Bill@BillHasse, that's Bill@BillHaase.com, or reach out to him right here at 216thenet@gmail.com. How about that? Come in, live studio audience, standing ovation for you, Bill. That's
I like
wonderful.
how you cut them off. Really quick, right?
If I had that power at home, would be great, right? Welcome into Innovative Strategies. Of course, he's Bill Hasse. To the as you're viewing it on the right, we've got our good friend Greg Francis from High Performance Parenting. Now, that is an incredible podcast and Redwood High Performance Coaching. So.
Yeah, awesome. Good morning. It's good to be back. Last week we came to you from Dallas, so it's nice to be back. I want to point out it is National Champagne Day.
Oh,
so thank goodness that starts. It's on a Friday, and I almost said starts on a Friday, so it starts on and goes right through Halloween. And I also wanted to tell you, last week while I was in Dallas, I got to meet a gentleman who we're going to get on this show. Grayson is 14 years old, and he's on his third business and has 4 employees.
Nice.
This is the 14.
That's awesome.
And because we had the conversation about how we dumb down our kids as soon as we send them to school,
right?
And these kids are brighter than we give them credit for, and they can do a lot more, and we need to provide that opportunity. So, but that's another day, another story. Greg, thanks for joining us. And speaking of kids and parenting, don't you have a flock?
I do. So my wife and I going on 20 years of marriage in November here, and we have 6 awesome kids, 5 girls, 1 boy, 14 down to 4. So we got a house full, that's for sure.
Good luck with all those daughters, because I have one, and hope she's not listening, but that's been tough. So I don't envy you in your position, but welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it too. I know I get a lot of advice about the kids and a lot of concerns for me in multiple different ways. In particular, I always hear the wedding thing, like, oh boy, hope you're saving some money for that. And I always tell
wedding, college.
Yeah, we're going old school though in our household, man. We're going back to the dowry system. You know what I mean? Bring your cattle, bring your land. If you want one of my daughters, let's do this right.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah,
I do like that. Going back to we could go back in time and it'd probably be in a much better place. But
true.
Yeah, hopefully we can get there again in the future. But again, thanks for coming on. I know you have your own podcast. And the parenting skills that you work on. Tell us a little bit more about what you got going on.
Yeah, so I grew up in a fairly dysfunctional household. I would probably describe it as an atmosphere of learning pretty much what not to do, whether it came to relationships or just loving a household, how to encourage and equip kids, and so there was just a lot there. So when I kind of quote unquote escaped, which was through sports for me. I played football, I ended up playing college football, etc. And then just went on my own and became an engineer, kind of chasing my own journey. But there's something about how when you know what not to do, but you've never really been modeled what to do, that it creates a lot of confidence. And so when my wife and I got married and we decided we were going to have a family, because it's funny, we joke about it now, but we were pretty committed when we first met that we would never have kids. We were just going to chase careers. We didn't want to put kids in a crazy world. Like we just had too many bad experiences on our own. And And then I don't know, our hearts started changing. God started working on our hearts, and
Yeah.
we had access to some really healthy families at one point. We're like, wow, so that's how it can be. And so we just went down this path of, all right, now we realize that we've learned what not to do. We kind of have seen other people do things certain ways. We were just growing in our faith now and starting to realize that there's a compass that's within, biblical principles. And we just said, let's go on a journey and let's see how to do this right. And so then it was literally just, this became kind of our doctorate program, is just trying to learn how to raise healthy kids, in particular in a crazy world. And so that's been our journey. And now, with 14 years of experience of doing it with literally daily experiences, we just decided that why not put a podcast out there? It's the number one thing we get asked about. We've had success in business and other areas of life, but people always ask, how do you do it? Like, how do you manage it all? How do you help your kids become like they are? And and so we're like, all right, instead of answering the same question over and over again, let's memorialize this. And we created a performance parenting podcast. Yeah.
I kind of got started the same way in financial literacy, and just got tired of trying to educate folks that then 2 months later would come back and say, what was that? What did you say? Why am I doing this? I kind of got tired of it. And when I educate, and that's part of what this show is, but I can sympathize with you, because your experiences are multiplied by 6. So, you get a lot of time working on that. Because I have a pet peeve, and I'm guilty of this pet peeve, is we raise our kids and we shelter them, and we shelter them throughout their whole lives to make sure they don't see how the real world is. Then all of a sudden they get out of college, and we say, okay, go out in the real world, have at it, good luck, see you later.
Right.
And then the world hits them, and they get frozen. These young adults get frozen because they don't know what to do financially. They're making money now, but they've got bills. They've, and things hit them from all different types of angles.
Sure.
And they really don't know how to handle it. It is a pet peeve of mine, because I think, we far too often say, learn from your mistakes. And I like to say, well, if I made the mistake, it hit me hard. I know that I'm not going to do that again. But how about learning from your successes? What did you do that helped you be successful? Why did this work?
I agree. And we always teach it even in our coaching program. It's like you only learn things one of two ways. It's either mentors or mistakes, and there's, with us, it's always been the fastest path for us to succeed at anything. It's like, okay, where's somebody who models this well, even if it's just one category. I think that there's a little challenge in the coaching world today, where people want like a coach to be everything that they want to accomplish in life. I just look for specific categories. If it's financial intelligence, then I'm going there. Not that I wish this on them or anything, but if the person, his marriage isn't super healthy, I'm not that concerned about it, because I'm there for the financial intelligence part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if it's about the marriage part, it's about the parenting part. And we've just stacked up mentors over time, because man, like making your own mistakes, it's expensive, emotionally, materially, every way. And so any way I can try to shortcut that, I'm all about it.
Yeah, and the bigger the mistake, the more painful and tiring it can be, and longer lasting, and more damaging, really, as I've learned throughout my life. If and any one of you think you're going to get through life without failures, good luck. It's not possible. We don't know everything, right? We know what we're good at, and hopefully you know what you're good at, and that you kind of run with that. It's like, Kent's heard me say many times that, I'm so IT illiterate, and absolutely horrendous with computers or anything that has to do with them. I'm a numbers guy. And I'm like, it's okay. Don't try to make me be an IT guy, because it's not going to happen.
So, I'm going to, Greg, you said that, you and Jackie have a lot of mentors, but with kids, right, are very formidable, but they don't get to choose that, right? They don't get to say, "Oh, look at our neighbor, Mr. Smith is a great mechanic." You know what I mean? They mimic and kind of become who the parents are. So as you're talking about this high performance parenting, are you mentioning that kind of stuff on your podcast or no?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on, Kent. There's as any parent out there knows, there's like this weight of responsibility of knowing that
Mhm.
your kids are watching you 24/7 and listening to you and duplicating you. One of our podcasts we just recorded was all about how to allow yourself to learn from your kids, because like we've been building so much information into them,
Yeah,
intentionally, strategically, and now that they're getting to be like 14 and up, and now they're catching us doing things, and they're kind of calling all the stuff we taught them back on us.
Well,
And
in a few years, don't worry about it because they will know everything, and then you can learn everything from them.
right, sure,
It
but
won't be long.
I think the thing that helped us the most with this, Ken, is that because us as the parents are so proactively seeking mentors nonstop, and then we're talking about this process, that it builds trust into our kids to listen to us. So it's not like how I grew up. I never watched my parents ever read a book. I never watched them try to
Right.
get counsel about anything. I just heard, do this because I said so.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And so
Don't do as I do as I say.
that's right. And so then, obviously, I mean, I remember at a young age starting to be like, I don't even know why that makes sense necessarily. So I'm going to start seeking information elsewhere because there was such a lack of trust in the information, and then it turns into, you look like, I think, at least I know I was like the rebellious kid.
Sure.
I look back though, I don't know if I was really brutally rebellious. I think I was just questioning everything. And I didn't see my parents questioning things, and so then it made me just kind of seek out all these other. So anyway, so with us, we've just realized that if we're going to teach our kids how to actually be mentored, whether it's from us or from people that we suggest to them, then we have to be showing them that we're being mentored, that we're correctable, that we are able to realize that we're making mistakes sometimes, and we need people in our life that can talk to us directly and push us in a different direction. And
Right.
like literally, I mean, just be able to just hand it to us sometimes because we need it, right?
Yeah.
Well, my son is 29. My oldest daughter is 27. I got a 21-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old daughter. And the 29 and 27-year-old go, man, you're so easy on Colette and Lucy, right? And I'm like, and I tell him, I go, listen, Spence, I had you when I was 25. I didn't even know how to live life, let alone be a dad, right?
Totally.
And now, I've learned, and I've told this to all my kids. I'm like, I've learned over the years how to be a parent.
Yeah, that's true.
And
For
thank God there's 15 years between the first and the last, right? For me to be able to enact some of that
So
stuff.
the last one has a chance.
She's got a chance.
She's got a chance.
But I think though that a lot of parents, aren't able to be honest enough to go, just didn't know.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It is a good point because we don't learn. And so, Greg, I used to say when I get up in front of groups as a financial advisor, I'd say, there's two things spouses never talk about: money and sex. And I'm here to help you with one of them. But the reality is, it's true. And if you don't talk about things with each other as parents, you're not going to teach your kids.
That's right.
You're not going to pass it down. It's, I love that, my wife and I have started a tradition of just at least one night a week sitting down at the dining room table, even though it's just the two of us, and just having a conversation. Hey, what's going on? How things with you in life?
Yeah.
Because we all go through different things at different times, and we're always going through something.
Yeah.
Life never coasts.
Right. Sure. Right.
It's I don't care. I have two kids, and they keep me quite busy. And they're 29 and 25. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with us, it's been it's been a journey because one of the things that Jack and I realized early on is how we all show up with our quote unquote normals. The things that you watched and you learned and you lived by and you saw and that were your world for so many years. And then you end up showing up in marriage, and that person brings their set of normals to the table, and you bring your set of normals to the table, and nobody thinks they're wrong, So how do you navigate that? And it took us a long time. And this is stuff that we used to argue about like crazy. It was weird. Like my wife, she has a love language of acts of service, but I grew up in a household with a dad who was super controlling. Like, I mean, very, unhealthily controlling. You know what I mean? It was like the women did everything, and that was their work, and that was their job, and I get to show up, do what I'm doing, and so I remember we would fight over the dishwasher nonstop. Like the dishwasher would be needed to be unloaded or loaded, and I would literally not do it. I'm talking like for 3 or 4 years when we first got married, and she would be so like upset about this, but I would literally have this picture in my brain of like my dad and my older brothers. If I went out there and if I did something with that dishwasher, they'd be looking at me like, well, I see who wears the pants in the family. Like, because that's the kind of household I grew up in, right? Yep. And then it took me a while to realize how dysfunctional is that?
Yep.
What I mean? We got all these babies in the house, and we're a team, and it doesn't make me less of a man if I help my wife empty the dishwasher, or I play a part here. But it took me a while, and so we had to undo a lot of things like this. So it isn't like we just showed up, hey, we want to be great parents, we want to have a great marriage, and great, let's go. It was like now that we want to, it still in some ways takes us years to undo wrong methods of thinking in order to put right ones in.
Even if you can even pull it off. I mean, you said the magical word, it's team. So I just celebrated my 33rd anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's teamwork. It's not who does what. Like I'm the only one who works on the lawn and outside, and mom's the one who cleans
when
the
you
house.
Say that, Bill, you mean writing the check to the landscapers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Hey. And watering the flowers. Come on.
Okay.
But because I went through the same thing, Greg. So for years, I learned to cook because I would rather spend 4 hours cooking a meal for somebody than 15 minutes cleaning the dishes.
Sure.
Yeah. Hate doing dishes. Yeah. Now, flip side. Now, years later, teamwork. My wife's working very, very hard, and so I'm doing the dishes.
Yeah.
It's and I'm cleaning house.
Sure.
But we're seeing that role reversal, right? So this is a big shift, a huge shift, where we're seeing more and more wives are out there earning the lion's share of the income.
Mm-hmm.
And more and more men, even my son said, I would love to just stay home and have my wife make all the money. But there's a problem with that in some people's minds that say you're the man. You're supposed to be the one who, supplies and takes care of the family and makes sure everybody's good financially and every other way.
Yeah.
Dads are not the people the kids want to see. Dads are come and get involved when they're needed to be seen.
Sure.
It's one of the things I've learned. Not in all instances, but we gotta learn to take on different roles.
It's an interesting journey, I love studying the Word of God, and I love, in particular, a lot of the stories and just seeing how things were done in history, and just watching how the transition of what a family unit even is today compared to how things were done biblically in the past. And obviously, technology, world advancements, they all change everything, but I feel like nobody really knows what the handbook is for it. I mean, Jackie and I, we were just talking because our twins are 14, so they've got driving coming up here soon. I got one daughter who's like, I don't really care. Like, I can start it whenever. I'm not really in a rush to try to become an adult here. My other daughter's like, no, can I get my license today? Like, I'm ready. I'm ready. Now, at the same time, she's also out there, running into the other kids on bikes outside. And I'm like, well, we probably got to work on a little coordination and, awareness around you before. But anyways, so it's so interesting. So Jackie and I were starting to talk, okay, so what's our philosophy? It's like, how are we doing this? And it's like little things. I'm like, I had to go earn the money for my first car. You know what I mean? My parents weren't very wealthy, but that was just kind of the strategy. And Jackie didn't have to, but then there was other rules around it. There was curfews. There was, when do you get to do this? And we're sitting here kind of going through it all again. Like, okay, we're both bringing normals in. And then we had to stop ourselves from be like, all right, we got to go seek a few levels of advice on this. We got to find some people who've actually navigated this well, and then be able to watch us, because it's just, I don't know. It's like today's world different. When I got my license, there wasn't that every single person on the road was texting and watching Snapchat while they're driving. So it's different. So there's this level of, how do I protect my kids in today's society, but also how do I empower them to actually go out there so I don't like coddle them too much in this crazy world? So that's kind of the thing we're navigating, I think, at every season.
I mean, when Bill started driving, he just had to make sure he could hitch up the horses.
I had to have the right pair of shoes on.
That's right.
Actually, when I was learning to drive, it was mandatory that you had to learn how to drive manual.
Yes.
So we had to.
Yeah, the big thing, the big distraction for me when I was driving was the volume knob. You had to reach over and turn up the volume.
I now have hearing aids from those kinds of days. But
yeah. And listen, if you're out there right now listening and you want to know more about the high performance parenting podcast that's out there, it's on every platform. I mean, Podbean podcasts, platform, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio. Just search it by high performance parenting. Boom, it comes up. You guys have how many episodes now?
Oh, I'm not sure how many my team has released. I know that I think we've recorded about 80 episodes now. Yeah, so I'm not sure how many are actually released because they release 3 a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Wow. So yeah,
that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. Yeah, that's doing a lot, and that's awesome.
But it's I mean, and it. Listen, I know it's 3 dudes, 3 dads sitting around talking this, but I mean, Jackie's in there. She is her insight from the mother's standpoint. I mean, you. I don't care if you've raised kids. It's just good insight on things, and life and strategies and things like that. It's more than just, hey, you know what? Give your kid a timeout, right?
Sure. Yeah. Ken, when we started it, it was 2 things, and I mentioned the one where we were getting a lot of questions, but the other part was Jack and I just decided, like, how do we memorialize some of this information and this way that we have learned to navigate seasons with kids at different ages? Because as you guys know, with your kids being a little bit older now, I mean, it's hard to remember the lessons that were happening when you had a 4-year-old.
So true.
You know what I mean? Like during the time, and you kind of try to remember. And so, we, with our kids, with us having one young one still, she's 4, and then all the way up to 14. And like, I have a hard time remembering our 14-year-olds, the things we were doing when they were 2, because first of all, we were different people, and we were growing, just like you were mentioning, Kent. This is our first round, and you're kind of practicing.
And you had twins.
Yeah. And so we decided that, okay, well, if we can memorialize this information, I mean, our main goal was when our kids, have their own kids and they can go back and hear some of this stuff and listen and learn. It's one of the best ways that I think that we can help mentor them as their parents when they become parents. And then, of course, the overflow comes from there. So, sometimes I get asked questions about it. They're like, hey, do you ever think that, people be a little offended thinking that you try to act like you're an expert in the area of parenting? And, there's lots of different ways of parenting and everything else. And
they're not rooting for your kids to come out right, because then you would be right.
Yeah. And I'm just like, the reality is it's kind of the opposite. We kind of feel like, because we haven't known what we're doing, almost everything we've had to rely on greater voices than ours. And then as we've applied it, I mean, if there's confidence in the information we're providing, it's because we've done it 6 times over now and watched it. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, I mean, people always are like, wait, you got your kids to sleep through the night on a schedule within 3 months of them being born? I'm like, 6 out of 6 times. And they're like, how do you do that? Because a lot of people, they think, well, if I have a baby, my baby's just kind of fussy, and so they didn't sleep at all for 2 years. And I'm just like, no, there's strategies that are proven.
Yeah.
You know how I learned it? I read it in a book, an old book that was called My First 3,000 Babies. And it was this lady who actually, her job was to take newborns within families and help them get on a schedule within 3 months or less. And she did it 3,000 out of 3,000 times.
Wow.
So to me, there's credibility there.
I mean? But here's an important factor that I know you follow. You're a conscious parent. You're not looking to, tell your child when they've done something wrong. You're looking for, how can I help them learn how to do it right?
Sure.
And be kind in what they've done wrong, because, so here's a simple example. I remember when my daughter was very, very young, and she wanted the blue top pudding, and I wanted the red top pudding, because the blue top was $3.99 and the red top was 99 cents. So I said, it's the same thing. We're getting red top. She goes down on the floor and starts throwing a fit. Now, a lot of parents in the grocery store will grab their kid, they'll yank their arms, they'll, do many things to walk the child away. Me, I got down on the floor and started throwing a fit with her. And she stopped. And this is in the middle of a grocery store in an aisle. And she just stopped and looked at me like, what the hell's he doing?
That is fantastic.
And I just looked at her and I got up. I said, you done? And I just turned around and walked around to another aisle and kind of stood there going, oh boy, I hope this works. And all of a sudden you hear the feet pattering and coming flying around the corner. And like, oh, there you are.
Yeah. And then security showed up.
Right.
Right. So we're gonna have
But it's because it's a choice. We make the choice. Are you going to be a conscious leader? Are you going to be a conscious parent? Do you look for opportunities for teaching moments? Or do you just go with the, let's say, and for lack of a better word, typical parent, and just say, you screwed that up.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember the old saying I remember well is if you had half a brain, you'd be dangerous.
Yeah, right.
When we grew up, it was a different world. Dad was the one who was always out working. Mom was usually home. That changed.
Yeah.
We have dual incomes now and all that fun stuff. So parents rely heavily on schools, and we could go all day talking about how that's wrong.
Yeah.
But do you homeschool?
Yeah, we do. We I guess it'd be about 5 years ago now. We first started trying like a private Montessori school, and because again, we didn't know what we're doing. I grew up in public schools, and my wife grew up in traditional all-girl Catholic schools. So there's just like
my wife too.
Yeah, we come from these different backgrounds. We're like, okay, well, what's better in them? We would do a little research. Again, we're guessing at the first part, but I'll tell you the thing that kept happening though, Bill, was like I would take our kids would get up at dark 30. We'd go to this place. I'd have to go pick them up at whatever 3:00. They'd come home. They're falling asleep in the car. They're just little kids, and then I would be spending the next 2 to 3 to 4 hours literally undoing all the unhealthy things that were happening in their atmosphere. Whether it was with other kids or whether it was even just stuff that was happening with teachers. And I finally just got frustrated. I'm like, man, I don't get this. And then I started looking into even just education stuff. And I know this is your world. And I went down that rabbit hole a little bit. And I'm like, okay, and then Jack and I, here we are. We're like, all right. And then it's all the normal things that get said against homeschooling. Your kids are going to end up being weird and dysfunctional and, all this stuff. And not social. You should meet my kids. My kids are the most social kids you ever meet in your life. Maybe with good people skills. You know what I mean? They don't have a problem talking and having adult conversations, even though they're 10 years old. And
that's awesome.
we made the change, and we didn't. The thing for us is we're like, how do we handle this with our own businesses, with our busy schedule? We don't even know if we're supposed to be doing this. What's the dynamic going to be like between being their parent and love and encouragement, plus also having to shift into being a teacher? And so what we did was we just decided to have different roles. And it's basically like, I'm the financial person. I write the checks, and Jackie's kind of the principal. And we hired a team of people to actually teach our kids virtually, mostly at home. And then we started choosing their curriculum, right? I mean, so for us, we do a lot of entrepreneurialism type teaching. And we do a lot for us, we're people of faith. So there's a lot of faith-based teaching involved in there. Okay. And it's been the best thing we ever did, for sure.
That's interesting. And so we have similar wives. My wife was Catholic schools her whole life, all girls schools, Regina, St. Mary's in Notre Dame. Okay. And I was not Catholic. So not a good start. But I asked the father-in-law for his daughter's hand in marriage, and he said, will you raise the kids Catholic? And I said, fine. And you pay for Notre Dame. Didn't totally work out, but like you said, so my kids they were in public schools until we moved, built a house, and there was a Catholic school there, and my in-laws and my wife are like, kids are going to Catholic school. So they start going, and I used to look at Sundays as I get an hour and a half of free time to myself because they're going to go to church. Okay. But then my kids are seeing me not go to church and saying, why? So in '09, I made a difference. I made a change, and I went through RCIA, and it became a Catholic. And boy, did I embrace it quickly. Became the chairman of the board of the church within a couple of years. I've been lecturing 14 years. Big change, big difference.
Sure.
Set that Catholicism hook. Saw you coming.
Yeah, I felt guilty.
That's right.
No, but my thought was, I can't ask my kids to do something that I won't do myself. And I need to get skin in the game. I said, at least go learn about it. And you've talked about this a couple of times so far in the show, is you went out and did research. You went out and learned about it. This is another pet peeve of mine, is so many people nowadays don't do due diligence. They don't go out. They have questions, but they don't go out and learn about anything. They just believe whatever they see and hear, whether it's on Facebook, and maybe a TV commercial or something. I mean, I always like to use the Prevagen thing where, everybody's, I'm taking Prevagen because I'm well into retirement and I'm trying to keep my mind sharp, and that's what this does. And it's like, no, it doesn't. Prevagen was a drug that did something completely different. That failed. They took it off the market, renamed it, said it's brain food, and brought it back out and charged you $100 a month for taking it. And it doesn't work.
Yeah, right.
But so I like the fact that, you keep saying, well, we went out, we did our research.
Yeah. You got to question everything, especially in today's world. I mean, it's again, it's another season of life right now where there is so much information constantly at your fingertips, or actually shoved down your throat in some respects. And so, the minute that the powers of to be are trying to discourage people from being, thinkers on their own, trying to be out there and actually question everything, that's when you should got to question more. You know what I mean? And so we really encourage our kids to question everything, even us. Like we give them an opportunity to do it with respect and do it with honor. But if there's something you don't understand that we're teaching, or a value we're building in, ask the questions. Like let's debate this, so that we're not just coming up with an "I told you so" or just do it just because kind of mindset. It's like, for us, one of our key philosophies, I mean, it changed everything about parenting for us, is that we just made a decision at one point, of course, as we were growing in our own faith, like, okay, we got to make a realization here. These aren't just our kids. These are God's kids. And I'm not necessarily the owner. I'm kind of the manager, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he owns them. We manage them. If you're the manager of a baseball team and the owner has a certain philosophy, wants certain things to happen that year, and you as a manager say, well, I'm the manager, so I'm going to do it different, you're going to get fired. And I think that's what happens with parents sometimes, is like they don't realize that they're actually the manager, not the owner, and the manager has to be on the owner's game plan. And so when they're not, they could get fired, meaning that your kids go and learn other places, or just kind of end up rejecting you or whatever. And so, that's why when we're teaching philosophies and principles, we're like, okay, well, let's go back to what the owner says, and that right there gives them a lot of, I think, peace in what we're trying to build into them.
So how did somebody go from, so I'm from a similar family. My wife laughs at it. She goes, your family's the dysfunctional family and my family's a functional. And it's kind of a joke because her family is more functional, I would say, than my family was, but not functional at all. Sure. So how do you make that change, going from that big dysfunctional family to this rock solid, being able to build such a strong family?
Yeah, it's been
functional family.
It's been a journey, and it sounds like we are so similar, Bill. When I first started dating Jackie.
Do you have two older sisters? Because I have two older sisters.
I have one older sister. I'm the youngest. Yeah, I'm the youngest.
I'm the youngest, and I don't like admitting that I have two older sisters, but I do. But that's how dysfunctional we are.
Yeah, we would go to family, like a Christmas gathering or something, and we were from Michigan, so her parents lived down in Canton, Michigan. Mine lived up by Saginaw, Michigan area, so like an hour and a half away. We'd go to hers first, and it would be like classical music playing, and everybody's dressed nice, and everybody was really respectful, and they'd open one gift and thank everyone perfectly along the way, and then there'd be this nice dinner with china set up, and I'm just like, wow, this is how this. Then we go to my family's house, and it's like a half a keg of beer and Ozzy Osbourne t-shirts, and you know what I'm saying?
We had so many presents under the tree that we would just go shredding through it. and after 2 hours, we'd have to take a break
Wow.
then go back. I mean, we literally would move furniture to be able to fit presents in, because that was my grandparents kind of thing.
Okay.
And we've gotten way beyond that. That's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like we have had some very similar trials and tribulations.
So it's been a journey with us to try to get to a place where, we really have decided, to how do you, come from a lot of dysfunction and unwork all of the dysfunctional thing in your own life in order to become functional. And I would like to say it's been easy, but it hasn't, and it's still a work in progress. But again, like for me, I believe that healthy community is the soil of transformation. And so we've really pursued us in our life. We have pursued trying to plant ourselves in communities that with healthy people that are trying to challenge us to become all that God created us to be, that are not only competent enough to be able to do it, but also are caring enough to do it. You know what I mean? And
how do you find that? How do you find that community? I mean, I built a house in a subdivision that was all new homes, which is unique. So everybody's open-minded in those scenarios, and there are no cliques yet, right? We're all new, so we all get along. However, how do you find that good community? Because the one we live in, boy, there was some wife swapping and
oh boy, wow.
several divorces, and some people marrying other people's in the neighborhood. And it's like my wife and I look at each other and go, wow, this is really wild when we look back at the 18 years of all the things that have gone on. And it's like they were all good friends, at certain times and stuff. But how do you find that community?
It's kind of
you'll attract it. All right. I mean, like energy finds like energy, I think. But I want to shift here in the second half of the show. Okay. So this might be a curveball, but a lot of your audience is business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk a little bit about Redwood high performance coaching, if we can.
Okay.
Because you're incredibly successful in a lot of different business ventures. You've got speaking tours and things like that. So is it kind of the same? You talked about mentorship. Is that what we can look for from Redwood high performance coaching, or help us with that passion a little bit?
Yeah. So our journey, I was an engineer, and then after my first 4 years out of college, I got laid off twice, which was really frustrating because I was in the top 5% of performance reviews. So I was a hard worker, never really had necessarily an entrepreneurial desire. I think everybody wants to do better, but I just thought I was going to chase the corporate path. And the second layoff frustrated me enough to start trying to figure out other ways to make money. So the first thing that showed up in my lap was a good friend of mine who brought me a network marketing business, which I didn't know anything about at the time at 27 years old. So I got started with a network marketing business, but fortunately it was with a group of some people who had a really solid biblical foundation, and they also didn't just do network marketing. Like some people really kind of get, I don't mean to be judgy, but a little kind of weirded out in this category. And we pursued it there. And so we kind of cut our teeth in that space. And if anybody's ever done it, you know that if you're going to ever build a substantial business area, you gotta, like, there's work to be done, and there's skill sets to learn, and you gotta learn a lot about how to build high producing cultures and high producing teams, and you gotta learn about effective strategic recruitment. You gotta grow you enough to be able to lead others. And so I kind of went all in, and it was such a great 5-year season of my life where it was just I was learning more every 3 months than I had learned, in the last 3 years. Like it was such an acceleration. And so I went for it, and from that, then we did well in that space. And we still do. Actually, we still have it actually worked for us like it's supposed to, where we still have a business that runs itself, and there's leaders backed by leaders, and we still get, a financial income stream from it that, we're very proud of. But over time, because of all the skill set we had learned just through all the team building and high producing culture and everything else, people started asking us, small business owners, et cetera. it kind of kicked off. My wife was getting her eyebrows done, whatever that means, microblading, whatever, where they go sit in a chair and spend $800, for 30 minutes, whatever that is. And the owner was the one who would always be serving her, and she would just be drilling my wife Jackie with questions, and Jackie's just like spewing off knowledge bombs, and the lady's like bugging her, like, "Do you guys do any coaching? Would you coach me?" And finally, I just threw out some big numbers, like, "Yeah, if you want to coach, just tell her, it's like $1,000 an hour. We'll coach her. We'll talk to her 3 times a month or something like that." She's like, "Done." We're like, "Oh, okay." So then we started coaching her, and really we were teaching a lot of stuff that we had been learning for the past 10 years. And then her income doubles in a year. And then she starts having all these healthy relationships. And then we had another one. She's like, "Oh, started referring us people." And all of a sudden we had a couple other people we're coaching, and their income was doubling and tripling, and their relationships were thriving. And we're like, so again, it's like, I'm such a systems guy, and I like simple strategies. Like, I really like simple strategies. So we put people through a process, basically, we call it alignment for increase. And we help people discover some clarity on where they really want to go and why, and not just in business. If you ask almost everybody, "Hey, what's your 5-year goals?" They're going to spew off 3 or 4 financial goals, high achievers I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
And I always say, okay, but let's just do one category out of 5 is finances. And then it's like, okay, what's your marriage goal for the next 12 months? Man, everybody looks at you blank when you say, "What's your marriage goal?" Like, they don't even know what it means. Right? Yeah, to survive. Right? And I'm like, well, if you don't have any strategies for your marriage goal, I promise you your marriage will be worse off in 12 months. Promise you. I guarantee it's going to be worse. Maybe just a little bit, but it's going to be worse because you're either growing or dying at any given moment. What's the goal with your, maybe even the spiritual foundation in your life or in your household? And what are the tangible things you need? So we'll help break this down. And then I put them through a system of helping, I call it bottleneck detection. And I challenge them in multiple categories of life that I know are super important. It's like, if you look at a wheel, it's like spokes on a wheel, right? Yep. And one is intellectual health, and one is emotional health, and one is physical health, and one is spiritual health. One is marriage health, and one is parenting health. And any of these that, like, you're not a scale, let's look at it like a scale of 1 to 10 on each of them. If you're a 2 on one and a 3 on one, and you draw the circle of what your wheel would look like, it's going to look like this. Yeah. It's not going to be round. It's going to be dysfunctional. I said, put 4 of those on your car and try to drive fast. Yeah. Right. And so what we do then is we just help them get better at the categories that they're weak in. With it's really pretty simple, Kent, but it's really powerful. It's like, number 1, we want to figure out what are some of your top 2 or 3 limiting beliefs in that category. You know what I mean? And like, let's say marriage. Almost always a woman will come up with something like, "Men always leave." I'm talking about like single girls. They have this limiting belief just that in the back of their brain that men always leave. How many relationships do you think that they self-destruct because that's going on in the background? But yet they want to be married, And so 3 limiting beliefs. Next, we go into, what is the vision? What would you actually like if you really could accomplish anything? What's the purpose? We have to back it with a strong emotional why, or else the work you're going to have to do to accomplish this is never going to happen. And then we go into top 3 or 4 top strategies that'll work in your life, that don't take a lot of time, that are super simple. And we go through this process, and we help them basically create their own playbook for alignment. And you should watch. It's people show up all the time. They're like, "I want to double my income." Okay, great. We do this process, and then we have to work on their marriage and their parenting and their physical health for the next 3, 4, 6 months. And then their income doubles after they work on those categories. Right. So it's really fun. So that's what we do within our coaching program. I mean, we've been having a good time doing it. We're actually going to start building out. I have somebody right now who wants us to build it out on a more of a scalable level, because we do a lot of individual coaching. So that's one of our next projects on the docket for sure.
Yeah. And awesome. I'll share it here, but it's, if they just go to teamredwoods.com, right?
Yeah, that's right.
teamredwoods.com. Let me just share this up there. And I love that, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, as solopreneurs, Bill, you've had a lot of guests on your show who've talked about it too, is we hyper focus on the business.
Oh yeah.
And then we lose focus on all the other areas. And I mean, you've got family, freedom finances, and the proven success. Now, if any of the listeners go out and are listening right now, if you go to teamredwoods.com, right up at the top here, you'll see you can book a free strategy session, right?
Yeah.
So you'll take some time to talk with them, and it's complimentary.
That's right. Yeah, you fill out a quick questionnaire, which will help actually with the conversation. We do a 30-minute consult, really.
Yeah.
And the reason for it mostly, Ken, is just that Jackie and I, we've learned over time, we're really good at helping people who really want to grow.
Yeah.
But we are really bad at helping people who are trying to figure out if they want to grow. Right?
Yeah, you have to want to. I mean, first
Yeah.
of all, nobody's going to seek you out if they don't really want to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and whatnot, they think they've got to do it all.
Yeah.
And it's very hard-headed. Don't realize that, there's nothing wrong, with getting help from other people. In fact, it's basically a requirement to success. You can't do everything on your own. You don't know everything. You never learned everything. And you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So yeah, it's fun, Kent, doing coaching, consulting. I'm such a results guy that I really want to help some people get results. We're actually been invited to speak at it's called Pathfinders Conference. It's coming up in Salt Lake City. We live over in Boise, and it's like a business ministry, high level business people. And we got invited in there to speak about how to produce high producing cultures, how to build strong teams, etc. And I'm going to talk the whole time about alignment. Like if there's anything that we ever offer a company that's trying to get their top leaders to produce more, they always want the sales strategies and techniques. And I'm just like, if your people aren't functioning well, there's no way you're going to get the most out of them. There's just no way. And you have to invest into people's like overall health of their life, or else they're always going to be operating like probably 25 to 50% max, no matter how many hours they're putting in. So yeah, so it's fun.
I love that. So last week I was at a summit down in Dallas, talking about conscious leadership, and work in that area. A lot of HR folks were there. I'm sure that they would love to hear, what you have to say and your ideas and thoughts, because it's the HR folks were there to try and learn strategies to bring back to teach their, executives and whatnot.
Well, the name of your show, right, is Innovative Strategies. And we're in the fourth quarter, right, of this year. Now, what has happened? Everybody closes out the year and then they have big dreams, aspirations, or whatever for the following year, the coming up year.
Yeah.
You can go out to teamredwoods.com and have a free strategy session, an innovative strategy session, perhaps, if we were to use, right? Because so many times business owners are focused on, okay, I've got to do good on my business. But I'm intrigued literally with what you're saying, Greg, is that, wait a minute. Your business is part of your being. So let's take a look at all the parts of your being. And if one part is out of twist, right? All right. I listen, I'm a plumber. I'm in my truck all day. I'm eating Big Macs and large Cokes, and I'm smoking cigarettes, and I'm wondering why I'm not successful in business.
Yeah.
Well, and also the mindset of I need work-life balance. No, it's just life balance.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I'm glad you agree with me, because I know that's what you're bringing to the table, is helping people develop a balance.
Yeah, that's right. I'll give you an example of this, because it's so powerful. So I recently had a new client. He was actually trying to recruit me to partner with me in some other business stuff. And it would have been very lucrative and good, but something, I felt like it was just a Holy Spirit prompting that there was a check happening. And as I got to know him better, I realized, I think I'm supposed to help him. And because he's a really strong, business, as far as financial increase, et cetera, makes great income. Most people would be very envious of this. And we started going down this coaching path with him, and he's really a hard shell, which is most high achievers, by the way, right? Why? Because they're so used to having to lead that they don't get to be human. They have to help everyone around them, and they don't get to be down ever. They don't get to talk to anybody about stuff, because then they kind of get judged, or they lose leadership because of it. So then they don't have anywhere to go with it. So I like to talk to these people because I can speak their language because I've been through a lot of business stuff. And I give them a chance to be angry or be sad or to be happy or whatever. But I challenge them. And this guy, he shows up and we do this process where I have him put the top 5 out there of the things that he would like the most. Now, keep in mind, he is like a 80-hour-a-week entrepreneur in what he likes to, like he likes it. Okay. And his number one, because I basically have him list out 5, 6 things he wants. He had a lot of things already in the front of his mind. I didn't have to pull anything out of him. It was spiritual growth. He wanted to feel closer to God. He wanted to know what that having a relationship with God was. He really wants his marriage to be more deeply connected. You know, he wanted to actually start really rebuilding a relationship with his kids. It's been kind of severed along the way. And then it was like so much income.
You work 80 hours a week, you're going to have problems with the wife and kids.
Agreed. And so here he is. He has his things. And what I always do is I have people actually draw if you could only have one or the other. So if you could only have this goal of $500,000 a month, or if you could have a deeply connected marriage, which one matters more? Right. And I said, and be honest, like, even if we all know the answer should be the marriage, right. But if you care about the other one more, it's okay. Like, just be honest. Well, everything, when we added it all up, he spent an 80 to 100 hours a week in his business goals. And it was the 6th most important one out of all of the things he had written down. When he really got honest about his values. And I said, you see, so now this will guide your decisions if you pay attention to this, because the next time when you're out trying to do something to actually grow closer to God in your phone dings because it's a business problem, what's your choice? You base it on what you value most, and you value more, actually growing in this category versus running the business thing. And when you start making decisions, he starts doing this, and it's only been like 3 months. I'm telling you, it almost brings me to tears watching how much better his marriage has improved, watching how much different he operates. Like, he was kind of a walking heart attack, and now he's just got this peace. And he's spending half the time in his business now, and it's increased like you can't imagine already.
Yeah.
Right? When we're not doing work that's in alignment with our core values, right? If we're not doing that, you don't function well. You just
it makes sense. Well. It makes total sense. And what a great story. Just fantastic, because he probably didn't feel that he had the time or could put the effort in to those first 5 categories because he was stuck on number 6. He was stuck in the business, or he may have felt that way. And hence he was doing the 80 plus hours a week. And basically,
I think the right way to describe it is, it's for high achievers, it's called creative avoidance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We never say we're lazy or we're procrastinating or anything like that. We don't do that. That's what average people do. Right? Us high achievers, we creatively avoid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need to work in my marriage, but I don't know how. So I go bury myself in work. I want to have a better relationship with my kids, but I honestly don't know how. So I'm going to go hide doing something that makes me feel like I'm a winner.
Yeah.
Right? And then the world celebrates it because they're like, oh, look at how much money he's making. Oh, look at the businesses he's built. Nice job.
Right.
And you're like, this is awful. I'm miserable. And it happens all the time.
I see it. I agree with you. I have seen it many times. And I agree totally. Family life, it's so important. It's such a major factor in anybody's life. I mean, Kent, you're a strong family man. You're a strong husband as well. I feel like I'm the same way, but I had to grow into that too.
Yeah.
I like you, when you first get married and you're just like, okay, now what?
Well, I'll use myself as an example. Listen, I was overweight. I was out of shape, which caused severe sleep apnea. And when my oldest 2 were coming up, and I would get home from an 8-hour or 12-hour day at work, I would sit down in the easy chair, kick that baby into L for loser, right? and I would snore. They'd wake me up to eat dinner.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'd get home an hour before dinner. I would fall asleep before dinner, snoring because my body was so bad. Right. And I had sleep apnea so bad that I look back now and I'm able to talk with my kids, and my daughter is a clinical psychologist. And I'm like, Man, I had and for years and years and years, like, go get a sleep study. No, I'm too young. I went and got a sleep study, and the doctors are like, yeah, you stop breathing like 70 times an hour.
Wow.
or whatever. Severe.
Yeah.
To which my kids were like, how are you alive? I'm like, well, obviously I haven't
That's more
slept
common
for
than you
years,
think.
right? And so I started, okay, so I go and I get a CPAP, right? I'm not saying, I'm just using myself for an example, but I started to get rest and my body started to heal properly, right? Which meant I had more energy and I was more attentive to the family, right? My business started to build. I started to lose weight because, there was that balance that was way out of whack. I feel horrible today as I look back, if you look through the rearview mirror, on what I would say is Jabba the Hutt. I was a slob, just and could I have been a better dad at that point to my two oldest kids? Well, yes, but I had things that were out of balance in my life.
Well,
right?
nobody's perfect, right?
I'm close.
We there are all kinds of things that can drive us out of balance that we allow,
Yeah.
right? This is why, like with Greg, you're consciously making the effort to be the kind of person you believe is a good person that you want to be, right? And so many people don't consciously even allow that to come into play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah. My kids, we always try to choose like a theme word for the year. Sometimes even just like, what would be one of your themes for this category of life? And like for me, if my kids ever describe me as something down the road when I'm older, I want them to remember me as intentional. Like that's probably the main word that I want. I want them to see me as someone who is constantly proactive and trying to do my best. Because that's where I feel like faith takes over. And if you're really genuinely putting your effort in and doing the best you can with what you currently know, I think that's where God takes over and just amplifies it. I think it's when you're not, that's when dysfunction happens. So every year, part of my philosophy when it comes to like personal growth, because I've been such a personal growth junkie, just to try to, as we were talking about earlier, trying to overcome old stuff, is that I just always let people know that I am under construction, but my growth game is strong. And if I don't see you for a year, I want to have to reintroduce myself to you because I've just positively changed so much. And that's just that's just kind of the philosophy that we live by, and it keeps us moving. It also keeps us not beating ourselves up with the stuff we don't know yet, or we're not doing perfectly yet, or whatever, because that's really easy to get going down that path as well.
Yeah,
it is. We do beat ourselves up, for many things, and we're our own worst enemy, right? I mean, nobody's tougher on us than us.
Sure can be. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you have a little bit more discipline too. I know you're ex-military, you're West Point guy.
Yeah.
You obviously super intelligent. West Point doesn't take dummies.
Yeah.
But and that gives you a certain type of background and learning experience and drive that a lot of people don't get.
Yeah.
Don't have that privilege of being in that scenario. I mean, I'm very familiar with West Point, but
I think my discipline, though, to be honest with you, Bill, it's just like it's part of self-awareness. I have pretty much two gears. I'm either pretty much focused or I'm lazy. I don't know how to do half and half. So with me, I have to. I'm not the kind of person who tries to have a really good even like work balance necessarily. I would rather work hard on a project, get stuff done, and at the end of 2 or 3 months that I've got accomplished what I wanted to, I can go take 2 weeks off and not even have to think about work. Like I just kind of figured this out for myself.
Yeah.
And so discipline for me comes from a lot of just like getting rid of other things that would distract me, instead only allowing myself to go on this path, but not forcing myself to feel like I have to do this forever. And
I mean, too many people believe that you have to put in that 8 hours or 10 hours a day in order to be successful and get things done. And then we grow up and we learn, work smarter, not harder, kind of a scenario. And there is a balance, but putting 10 hours a day in doesn't necessarily mean you're getting yourself any further ahead.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's you don't focus on the time frame. Focus on the top, the subject matter. The focus on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then surround yourself with those who buy into what you're trying to accomplish.
Right on.
And
Right
that
on.
helps dramatically. I mean, it's one of the things I knew was in my business plan was only bring people on that buy into what you're trying to accomplish. And then those people are not called employees, they're called contributors. We're all contributing towards a common goal. But we are down to the last few seconds. But this is Greg, I can't thank you enough for coming on. This is for the first time I'm saying, wow, what a quick hour this went.
Yeah, this is fun. Yeah, we should do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I promise you we will. This is a little bit off the beaten path of some of the things we do in the show, but it is so very, very important to your life in general. It helps for entrepreneurs to understand.
Yeah.
You got mental health, physical health,
personal
health.
For the High Performance Parenting Podcast, go to whatever podcast platform that you absolutely love listening to, Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever it is. Just type in High Performance Parenting. Boop, there it is. And if you're looking to move your life, your relationship, your business, whatever it is forward, visit teamredwoods.com and you'll get a free strategy session to set you up to win in 2024. Simple as that.
Right.
All I gotta say is why not?
That's it.
Yeah.
Listen, for all of us here at 21.6 and Greg, thanks again for coming on Innovative Strategies. Thanks for getting caught in the net with us this morning.
Awesome.
And we look forward to a great 2024 and maybe seeing you on our channel a little bit more too. So
absolutely, we'll definitely bring you back.
Thank you so much, guys. Really enjoyed it. You guys are doing such great things. So thanks again.
You got it. Give your wife and kids a hug for us. Tell them we love them. And until the next time, be good. But more importantly, folks, be good to one another.
Right on.